You can just say okay to the recording.
Okay, that's it. Bill, it was.
So we're right 2 o'clock on the clock.
3 o'clock.
Exactly on time.
Then,
Yes.
Sama Shelangebu Nong, then Tetsich Mesoso, Tets Repose, this comes.
So I hope you had a pleasurable and useful break, useful in the sense that you could rest.
So, to Jichetene, Keja Mambo Machine, Tambo Dagi Shuvan Nangsing, B. Chabdolandoginda, Chabdola. Ma Padapa B. Kumasapet. Quel passe? 2A. Passe 2A.
Okay, so let's not waste time gossiping about how well we rested, and let's start the practice. So we start the practice with the sadhana itself, the practice itself, the main practice, page 2B. So we skip the preliminary preparations.
Then signal la yinang la khande yuna yang mena yang sosogi samlotayadi sosogi tene sosogi nyamyong sosogi kande chikha gotugudu dende samdana digrama tu dor duna chabru dembe kala takwa rishi sanje chodan gendung gende shene dela chabsun dogo yore chabru dogo tenda de ha tene korwala jigne korwala yangdu kene tene dila be jiksena da nyobde da kale hagodu samne te korwala targudu tene yang gechishude orang jikbo dharnada kaya denamda tene semje thamje sammoto chabru kabla tirade.
So I don't know if everyone has arrived, but nevertheless, this page 2A is the page of refuge. And we have already provided some reminders and teachings about the refuge this morning. There are 4 lines, 4 verses, and the thing is that this is a spiritual practice, so it happens within our mind. It's not about the words in the text. Whatever the text of refuge, there is always that any text always starts, and any practice starts with the refuge, as we said this morning. And whatever it is mentioned or whatever is not mentioned, maybe there is a reference to something or some reference to something that is not there, is not the point. The point is not about the words that are mentioned, but the taking refuge that we implement within our own mind. So when the time comes to take refuge in a practice, the key thing is to take refuge within our own mind. And the proper way to do that is always to start from disgust, from samsara, a sense that samsara, this cycle of existence, endless circle, vicious circle of suffering, it's a sense of fear, maybe we could say of exhaustion. This is exhausting. We don't want it anymore. We don't want this suffering anymore. We are afraid of going through that again, especially afraid of the biggest suffering. So traditionally, it is about. It's said about terror. This is terrifying. The kinds of suffering we can go through in samsara are really terrible. But we could say more generally, it's being tired of it, being tired of being born again and going through this samsaric existence again. And with that really sense of turning away from samsara and going for enlightenment, we do this movement, inner movement of taking refuge. And that's the key thing, it's not the words.
Tene sama how do Manzuki Sonum Sadi Nidua Sonum Sala Tene Sonum Chatungi Nyamnin Chigdang Tarba Chatungi Nyamnin Jini Chabru Simji Mebajene Tene Sonum Gaze Sanayandi Tene Sonum Sani Midang Hagi Devatoya Samdeba. 다 냠낸 치중 간데 지나들라 잡조도 셈지 제나 되네 달바차든지야 상장치 토벨라 누구 디체벌 인장 냠낸 자치중 간데 지나 대고 침불라 당보 군주선나 잡선로야 니바 셈전 탐지라 잡닝지 보면디 더냠부 조고 그래 디도나 되네 대고 침불 냠낸라 누구여봐
And it's also about the positive attitude of our mind that we develop, what we call merit, something that is positive, constructive, beneficial. And what we call merit, there are two types of merit. There are merits that just increase our positivity, and there are the merits that lead us to enlightenment, and these are not the same. For any positive activity, let's say, taking a spiritual text and trying to do the practice, if we want that this positive, constructive, very nice activity is supposed to be really beautiful, for that to be an actual path of enlightenment, it has to be done in a way that is not just geared towards accumulating positive energy, but it's geared toward liberation from samsara, from their ordinary existence. So for that, for the merit to be a merit that leads to enlightenment, whether it's a big thing or a small thing, the target is different. So even if it's a small thing, let's make it in a way that it's directed towards enlightenment for all sentient beings. And for that, we have to really have this mind which is turned towards enlightenment, which we call taking refuge away from samsara, going towards enlightenment with the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, which means with the thought of all sentient beings. And with that, we have a very authentic, positive practice that leads towards enlightenment, Buddhahood.
Then dirida lela moro the same now denji chibore just mu go maraba kunju sanjus ten sam jena dirida the la what majar tene kunju sam na ten sam je lulu jene tene yangjar sarni pegela sarchi injikela inda chamrodi.
And because it's happening within ourselves and it's just a movement of the mind, it's not so complicated, actually. It's not something complicated. Just we just need to bring to our mind the presence of this state of enlightenment, the Buddhas, and direct our intention and our energy towards it, joining hands. And then we say, I take refuge, I go for this, this is my path, and whatever the words say, but just this movement. So it's actually quite simple. So we will do it together. We will use this text as a support, as a prop, and we do it twice in Tibetan and once in English, together. Much
Deso janjo barado janjo Ponjo sunge sa samaya jana Nahawaya taye jarvaya se Nasaya kaya jav Dravaya male Desoya jaya Barado chazo
In Amitabha, who truly is the three jewels, the three roots, and the notion of masters surrounded by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as many beings as space can hold, all without exception take refuge from today until enlightenment.
Da manzo chabdu di tekwa chimbu chabdu injang semjen thamje samlo tangyaro. Tene da nyamlen yiba di chabdu do nyambu tene semje gi nyamlen legyo. Pecha de la shi ridu kore pama tinchen nam seme nyingje dangwa kulangne dungal sebe solara la me changchu tabar semje do. Diyang pecha na la kande yena mena yang so so nyamlen de la tene chapsun rosane tene tekwa chimbu gi nangba chi rego di tene tekwa chimbu la zo chiwa di semje la jam nyingje kumya derwa rangde yurlo pangne semje di ke chimbu tse derwa di labdi tekwa chimbu di kande si jurgure si di pecha na la judre menga dungi tone tekwa chimbu gi di lan jurgu yarwa di labdi tangbu de semjen thamje rangi pama yimba samlo mambu dane shekbo yar pama lenchik mayba len mambu rangi pama yimba ngoshibu chik niba de drin remba sedi semjen thamje rangi tsedigi pama nangsing konzong anzo pama jebe kalang anzo laka drin chimbo redaba sam drin ta drin remba samji tiki mindowa drin sogo do tene drin len jalgo do tene da pama kadin chimbo disu nyen song sum de ba kene dungal mambu yore kanda nye roba khanda chego re sedi tene roba di tene ba kunju sewa tabne tene di jena mato yongyo ba kandar ngoma la so changchu thomne pama simjela roba je tugu yore sego tene shiba di ana din gane sogore sedi semje thamjala jamba gogyore semje thamjala ningje gogyore semje thamjala laksam namda tene laksam namda sede ngokok meba transparency ta dinashi gogyore dila ju dukre do tene debu chik sedi jangchuk sem sedi tene ju dula tene semje thamji jangchuk thobarsho sedi jangchuk sem sedi juduk menga chik dun dila jude menga dun sata da sama sungu do ade o tene chik samla tane tene ngajo te watching go semje go to station.
So we have taken refuge, so we are now embarking on a path that leads us to be liberated from samsara, and we have done that for all sentient beings. But this thought of all sentient beings and really opening our practice to make it a universal practice as fast as the space, we have to develop that attitude and that thought, that state of mind. The mind of enlightenment is the universal mind, as pervasive as space. And for that, we have 4 verses, the next verses. So as it's said in italic second line of page 2a, recite the 4 immeasurables and generate the aspirational, practical, and ultimate mind of bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, which is bodhicitta. So these 4 verses are a support for us to train to bring to our mind this mind of enlightenment and to improve and develop and train our mind and refine our mind in that thought that includes all sentient beings, limitless as space. And this is immeasurable. That's why there is a reference to 4 immeasurables, because sentient beings are immeasurable. And the way to do that, there are different techniques, but one is called the 7 steps. 7 steps to bring in our practice of a mind of enlightenment that includes all sentient beings. The first step is to consider beings as being our parents from past lives. So each and every sentient being, and beings are limitless as the sky, they are immeasurable. Each of them has been our father or our mother, and not only once, but because we had countless lives before now, they have been also our parents. We cannot measure the number of times they have been our parents. That's the first thing, is to contemplate and bring to mind the closeness of us and others. The second step is to contemplate what this implies in terms of the kindness of others to us, towards us. Contemplate what our mother, in particular, mother, father, but in particular mother, who carried us in her womb, and all the hardships she went through to bring us to life and protect us so that we could grow up, and so on and so forth, and contemplate the incredible kindness of the mothers. And mothers are all sentient beings. The third step is to consider that the sentient beings, so my mother, all sentient beings who are my mother, who have been my mother's countless of time, have been so kind, and yet now they are suffering. Some of them are most of them are in the lower realms. Some of them, many of them are in the hell realms, in a condition of existence that are extremely painful, and have a sense of repaying the kindness. What can I do for someone who has been so kind to me, who made my life possible and supported me for being alive? So there is a step of repaying, wanting to repay the kindness, and a step of realizing that sentient beings are going through terrible pain. They are stuck in samsara, and they're going through all kinds of suffering, especially the majority of them in the lower realms. And then from there, we develop a thought of compassion. So in Buddhist terminology, compassion means wanting someone not to suffer, and doing whatever we can to prevent some others not to suffer. So we generate a very intense and very warm compassion. All sentient beings whose kindness towards us has been incredible, life after life, many lives, are now suffering, and I want to help them to repay the kindness which cannot be repaid. When someone gives you life, how can you repay that? And they are going through suffering. How can I help alleviate their suffering? And the next step, how can I bring them happiness or ensure they are happy and they have the cause of happiness? And that we reach to the stage where we realize that the only way to help someone who's in samsara, who's been so kind to us and now suffering so much, is for that person to be liberated from samsara. So we want sentient beings to be liberated. And how can sentient beings be liberated? And we have really an urge, it's really profound, it's very intense, wish that they are liberated and that they are happy and blissful. The only way is that I must myself go on that path and be enlightened and help all sentient beings to be enlightened. And that is the mind of enlightenment. And this is not just a vague idea. because we ground it into an actual contemplation of very practical experiences of life that we have, of motherhood and connection with others and all sentient beings, and the kindness. So there's an entire process of contemplation, which here is just reminded. It's not the we don't have it's just a reminder of this process that we implement in our mind with these 4 verses.
Teneda semje de tsar sum dengre didi lagwa tema jame de lagwa mahapumo na shana digitus.
When we recite verses that support our inner process of developing the mind of bodhicitta, we don't need to join hands, put them back down on our knees, for instance, or in the lap. And then we go through the process and the recitation. So we recite this 3 times, again twice in Tibetan, once in English.
Pena chabdola du jedi konjor tengu yerwa semje lama du jedi ma doari tu semje samotang ortir.
Also, when we take refuge, we join hands and we bring our mind upwards towards the object, the place of refuge, which we visualize in the space above ourselves. But when we contemplate and generate and develop the mind of enlightenment, our mind is turned towards all sentient beings. So they are not just up there, they're everywhere, and they are down also. So therefore, we can have this as a way to remember. Bring down your hands and think of sentient beings. The 6 classes of beings of samsara, my very kind fathers and mothers, feeling an unbearable compassion, I resolve to liberate them definitely from samsara's ocean of suffering, so that they obtain unsurpassable awakening.
Teneda chabro semje sane da sumbade gechimbarwa sumbade yela dumba sengle pinwa 당은서 최동 직dengi leha khar yinayang jujigora judi sonam gitsora sonam gitsok mena 직dengi 연구요 말 세고 내나 삼에 발롱 제시모도 sonam mena 연구요 말 대외장기 거롤리 타려 상제가 왕 토비알라도 sonam 되는 자치무시오시 고고요레스 대인상 senam ki tsok mangbo chikda enla dimba dan duyarwa. Wadi insan da nyamende la sumba enla dimba ki nyamende libiyore. Tene enla dimba ki nyamende la tene dangbo tsangma hagorwa chak tsebe enla, chebo pewe enla, dikpa shakpe enla, jesu irangwe enla, chukor korwa kulwe enla, nyangali midawa enla, Ngoyela, di Yamlin Sumdilla, Yamlin Dundilla, Yela Dimba, Segidava.
That's all. Listen. So the next practice is called the 7-branch prayer, which is a practice of accumulation of so-called merit, positive energy. And merit, or this positive energy, is what makes anything positive possible. Like in our life, if we can enjoy to some extent a good health, a working body, and maybe some possession or some comfort, a house, food, medicine, friends, whatever, money, car, all this is a supportive, this support to our existence comes from our own positive activities in past life, which we call merit, and which allows us now to benefit from some positivity in our life, some comfort in our life. So nothing is possible without merit. So enlightenment as well is not possible without merit. We have discussed this at length so far. So this 7-branch prayer has different branches that all contribute to the accumulation of merit, and they are the best ways to accumulate merit. The first one is the prostration, the branch of prostration, the activity of prostration. And then there is the branch of offering, then the branch of confession, then the branch of rejoicing, the branch of requesting the will of Dharma to be turned, seeking and asking for spiritual teachings, and requesting enlightened ones to be living in this world with us and not to depart. And the final branch, the 7th one, is the dedication for enlightenment.
Tene yela dimbagi nyembu trabu labna karjene chatse gogore sena ngarang sola nyemungpa ngajil singe yor sangwa la ngala ne ngaje chimbe yor charang sola ngaje yena mena hago masong kangtar ngaje gi nyembu di chatse go yor ngaje gi sashe ji dikpa di da go yor tin sa ngajil gi nyembu di chatse yela tene ngarang so sangma na sena yor ba Ngalani sena yore, tene charang sala sena yona minago maso. Tene sena ki, nganzo ki sena ki sasha yuki, dikpa ki, daya ki tabla, nyembu di choba pyo yana, segoro. Tene ngaranzo sangmala timuk yorba, marikpa yorba. Tene timuk di yona kari yose di, timuk yona, tene nganzo timuki, tene Timuki dribne, timukla tene, dosha shedam timuk ngajal keki yore, segoro. Timuk di mebatang yorba. Timuki nyembu di la, dikpa shakpingi la, segoro. Tene ngarang sola chakdo yorba. Chakdo do pe chimbo yorba, sangmala ngala. Ngala yore, charang zo sangma chakdo chimbo yorba. Tene chakdo ki dikpa chimbo yore, digi mebasoya tabla nyembu di jesu yirang sedi gomo yore. Tene yang ngansoki chubangi le chegi yorwa. Tene dikwa pangi watu, tene kanzam, tene da tiksong da ichi masong samne, chu sangjegi chu disi pangcha nyanga yorwa. Tene chubangi nyimbola, chuju kolo koro kuyo yanas. Tene ngaranzo loktani sangmala yore. Tene lokta dikwa shishu lokta risi, le jimrila lokwarta wadi surwa. Tene lamala, chu la lokwarta. Di lokta la dikwa chimbo yisa, lokta di mewa soya ki nyembo di kunyangale mewa soya tabas. Tene dukshu di tesum rewa, kati ina tesum kene. Jabsun ro sem jena, yagodere kandichi yungo na sambaji yungo ro tesum rewa, tesum mewa chigo ro. Tesum ki nyembo di nguwe yinla, stireta yinla dimbala, pe nyamleni yakore dewa. Dida sonum ki so saya dikwa da Tom Japshedi, Yala Deba, Sendigar.
So these 7 branches are means to accumulate merit because they are very beautiful, positive practices. But not only that, they are also antidotes. They are the remedy or the counter agent to attitudes and behavior we have that are really counterproductive in terms of spirituality and our own spiritual development. So we use this 7 branch also as an antidote. So the first one, the prostration, paying homage to the enlightened ones, is the antidote to our proud, because we are all very proud. I am very proud, and I guess you are, but well, you check for yourself whether you're proud or not proud. But I can say I am, and when we are proud, we actually perform negative activities. So we need an antidote to that. And the antidote to that is prostration, humbling oneself in front of what is sublime. The second one is an antidote that is offering, is the antidote of misery, the fact of not giving and keeping for oneself. So I have it. I keep many things for myself, and whether you do or not, please check for yourself. But there is an antidote to that, and the antidote is to give, to offer and give away what we like, what is precious and beautiful. The third one, the confession, is the antidote to our ignorance and our stupidity, both ignorance and stupidity, which we have. I have it. So whether you have it or not, I don't know, but you must know, and you need to check, which is the source of, from our stupidity and ignorance, we fall into the trap of pride and miserliness and all sorts of negative states, and we act upon these states, and so we accumulate a lot of negative karma, negativities, and veils and obscurations. So the antidote is to confess, which means to acknowledge how negative what we do, to check introspectively and confess. Then the fourth one is the antidote to jealousy. I am very jealous, and you probably are. I cannot imagine you're not, but we usually don't realize we are when we are. And on the basis of jealousy, we say and do nonsense, and therefore there is an antidote, which is to rejoice in the success and qualities of others. And the fifth one is the tendency for practitioners to give up spiritual practice and beneficial positive activities of body, speech, and mind, because we think, okay, I've done a lot already, I've done enough, I'm very virtuous, I'm full of merit, so I don't need really to make so much effort, now I can rest. And after all, I don't see the results, so it's not so vital, it's not so crucial, and we abandon, and we even may reject, or we abandon, we give up the Dharma, or we neglect our spiritual development. And the antidote to that is to have enlightened masters with us. So we request and we ask and we beg them to be there with us, which is the request here. It's not to pass into nirvana and to remain constantly in this world. And then we have the what is considered the worst in terms of negative activity is the activity of the mind, or a state of mind, which is called wrong views, or in Tibetan it's even opposite views views that really deny or completely distrust in the causality of one's activity, mental, verbal, and physical, like it has no consequence, or I do something bad, or I think something very negative, but the result is good. So we have this very wrong view, completely wrong. We all have it. And the antidote is to request for teachings. And I think I inverted the two, but you got the idea. And the last one is the fact that because of this negative mental activity, we don't believe in the goodness that we do. And not only we don't exert, but we don't believe in it's that good. And the antidote to this sort of doubt is to dedicate our goodness to others, the dedication branch, seventh branch.
Teneda yela demba de da samlo tane tene sarchik dengo da.
So this is really something to reflect upon and contemplate. So we'll do that as we read and recite slowly once in Tibetan.
Shena wae dae nye wae se jena nye lae dae jama bhabe so la la cha zalae chember mi ge le nam ja Jesu yera che jengor la Nyange ai me da ta bara jo zonde gebe za wa chan cho chemor jikela.
In English, to Amitabha, the Buddhas, their offsprings, and the noble Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, I prostrate, make offerings, and confess negative acts. I rejoice in virtues. I request you to turn the wheel of Dharma, not to pass into Nirvana, and to remain constantly in this world. I dedicate all the roots of virtue to enlightenment.
Da di sumdi dene jorwa sedi nyamlen kar jene di sumdi ngondo togo go yara da kechimores dene da shiba dene gegla torma da dele gido di nyamlen takbar la mena di yore di samsam group je cheju da sobra pedi dana digre di gegi torma di gain sedi wanzo changchuk duye la parchi mangbo yorba tene du mangbo yongbo parchi parchi jengin disola tene tormande de jimbatame tene nganzo nyamlen jengala parchi majero na nganzo yesede fa madene taringbo pebro na sene tormango yare dirauta de gektoro sigartela.
With these three practices we have mentioned and done and been through, the refuge, the development of the mind of enlightenment, and the 7-branch prayer, we have performed what is a preliminary preparation of the meat, the core of the practice. So every practice has that entry point and preparation stage, step, the refuge, the bodhicitta, and the 7-branch prayer. And so we concluded this preparation. Now so these three have to be done. We cannot engage in any formal practice without ensuring that this foundation is there. And then there is something, it's written at the end of page 3, it's written, sprinkle the demon's trauma with water. So actually in this section, which is just a few lines, is called the demon's trauma. And this is not necessarily, it's not, you can do without it. We do it when we are a big gathering of practitioners in a special setting. Then we consider that there may be some hindrance in the place where we are, some bad spirits, bad energies, obstacles, demons, and we want to get rid of them. So we have a practice to tell them, please don't interfere with my practice, don't harm me, and don't harm the other practitioners here in this place. Let us do the practice, the actual now tantric practice. So for that, along with this getting rid of these demons, we perform an offering of a toma, which is sort of cake. We give them something, we give them as a money to pay for them going away. So there's an exchange, please take this, and go away. But this is not compulsory, it's really optional, and it's not necessary when we are on our own.
Tsila maten jodo nangne che sedita tsikdi gowrede dene tsik gechimbodo mayimba tenda di sambatang di da yangdo lagidwa tsikdi la ngane gare wangchen dene sambatang di dene tenda di biya barwa tenja tsik gogure manso nonchu mayala inayang tsikdi ngoma marwa samlota di gechimbodo.
So we're going to go together through that. But again, and very important to keep in mind that practice is practice within one's mind, is bringing an experience and harnessing the spiritual experience we already have and implementing and developing it. So it's a mental process. We have to think and go through a development and a transformation of the mind. And the words are just sort of guidelines or reminder. It's a support, it's like a prop, but it's not the actual thing. So we should not be bothered by the words or whatever they say, if it's complicated or not. That's very important. The main thing is not the words, is the mind. And the words are just here to help.
In the Nyambo, page 3.
Let's do it together, page 3A.
Ngane waije heruga dengelode jombezo deyendorma dicherela janzbada chirdengshi odira dibuchito orda.
Now play the bell. After that, we play the bell.
Dila dina ngak changak di charangsi jikila dridu drimindo ngak sumbani hongomdiane.
And here, a second line, page 3A, it's written in italic, recite the powerful mantra. So it's time, as we play the bell, we recite this mantra, which is a forceful mantra. And it seems it's not included in the text. I don't know if you have it in your English version, but if it's not there anyway, you can add it, or you can not necessarily write it, but it needs to be recited here, as it says, recite the powerful mantra. You don't have it? Do you have it?
Okay.
Okay, in the future, we will do in the next version of the text, we will add it, but it's a common mantra you probably already know.
Tene da gegla torman de pitsare tene da samche sedi geg disu drosade tene manso nyamlenje sa chingor deso zangma so goyar dereda.
So this being done, so we got rid of these obstacle troublemakers, let's say, and now the next step is called is it written? The circle of protection. So it's at the beginning of the second line. The italic ends saying the circle of protection. So this refers to the next stage now, where we sort of build a circle around the space that we have sort of cleared of hindrance, cleared of any obstacles, and we protect that space now after cleaning it.
Tene gig di yangchar mayang yarba security jendene ko dire da security ko dise yamu jen dise dire.
It's the security sort of protecting the space now that it's cleared, so that there is no hindrance coming back. So we secure the entrance or the space where we are practicing.
Da inda nyambo.
Let's do it together.
Zombe ma yeroge eshe chembe rolomale lode geje me yame korde eshe chembe lo Angela dibu dang gamaru ina to
If you have a bell and a vajra, you hold the vajra and you play the bell as you say and for a few seconds, for a while after that. You can mark it on your text.
진백 세디 나랑 저추 냠린 쟁인 초라 되네 진랍 되네 오면에 선제 밤에라서 보게 대시 자와 semba sanjeda janju semba 탐지기 만절라 구성투기 진랍을 진백 세디를 달라 진부 왕주 코스 먼저 냠린 지야라 다 먼저 먼저 수고지 짱마지 된 먼저라 되네 다 진랍 왕롱 치데스르바 dāla jinpuk wāngchū kōr umāmi dhyārā bīchā sādī tēne jīnab tamze rāla dīrē dādi cīdī.
The next stage, a step, is called the shower of blessing. So we invoke and we bring down a shower of blessing. So we invoke it and bring it down from the peerless, as it says, from the peerless palace of great bliss. And we request Amitabha and all the protectors, all the Buddhas, the assembly of the Sugatas and the victorious Bodhisattvas to shower upon us or shower us with their blessing and bestow their power and their initiation upon us. So it's like now that we are in a cleared and protected space, we want ourselves to be cleansed and to be ready. So we request this blessing upon us so that we are fresh, pure before as we embark on the practice.
객돌동 삼주니디 인지케 돌된미다 디지된나나.
So we didn't do these things which are optional. We didn't do in English. Let's do them in English. So we go back to page 3A, second line, and we read after Shri, in the three worlds of Pema Heruka, as a result of the play of great wisdom, not even the names demon or harmful spirit exist. It starts before. First line. Shri, I am the great powerful Heruka. Assembly of demons, negative beings, harmful spirit. Take this dharma, which pleases the senses, and go to the other side of the ocean. And it goes on, Shri, in the three worlds of Pema Heruka, as a result of the play of great wisdom, not even the names demon or harmful spirit exist. Samsara and Nirvana, wisdom's great expanse. And let's do the shower of blessing together in Tibetan.
Jembo Wang Chogur Omani Devari Adisaya. Da Jinbib Disu Sarne Tene Tamadi Chuzi Jinamre da Choba Disu. Manzo Choba Musu Shamshajo Argambadan Pipi Tibi Alubi Kendi de Shapta Yorba. Tene Choba Disu, Tene Ramyam Kamgi, Tene Choba Disu, Tene Tongba June, Tene Tongbe Mangle, Tene Winzinam to Tongbacha, Tongi English Rikpetsa, Sinang Sawa Chibidisu. Nada, Tanda Choba Miktendi, Ramyam Kaoma Hongi Zangma Soni, Tene Choba Samji Michapata, Sam Tangton Namka Gamba, Shi Choba Agamba Napibidan, Nangi Choba. Tene sangwe cheba signo. Da chi cheba arga nangi cheba pena so da de ro re gangdar cheba mangbu jire. Sangwe cheba de tene tabda shera mera to makhande ta de so gangdar semgi zambuling tongba dila tene chinang seba chinang sangwa bi cheba gi gango ro. Tene chida gangne tene tadik jigo ro. Chibapia de Dala, Tenedilla Gecha de Ram Yam Kamdua, Ram Mer Yam Lung Ham Churu, Tene Megi Harchigare, Tene Megi Meradan Zangmasogare, Tene Yam Lungi Megi Tiksha did Payaman Zangmasogare, Kamgi Chugi did Zangmasakanda, Ram Yam Kamgi, Zangmadi Karsogare, Sidi, Ninzing in Namdo, Mansoki, Ninzing in Namdo. Nga said, Nagi body said Nijinrema. Nagi Moda said Nijinrema. Nagi family said Nijinrema. Tene, the Ninzing and Namdo Tamjiramim Kamimeba Tangne, Tene Tongbanyanga, the Chinasa Chabatiso, and Gisimgi Trune, Tene, Iki Trune, Tadichigo, than the figure about the Tadichigo.
The next step is called blessing of the offering substances. Substances here is just a generic for things, offering things. So they may be objects, they may be all sorts of things. So it's substances. And it starts with Ram, Yam, Kam, 3 syllables from the Sanskrit. And then it says attachment to reality and concepts are purified by emptiness. From the ultimate sphere of emptiness and the dynamism of awareness come clouds of exterior, interior, and secret offerings, immaculate space treasure. What this is about is that later in the ritual, when we visualize and we'll develop the presence of the enlightenment within ourselves, around ourselves, we will communicate with enlightenment through offerings. And this is the preparation of the offering. So they are consecrated, they are blessed. But it's not the time when we present the offering, it's the time when we prepare the offerings. So for that, we arrange on the table, ideally a beautiful altar. We arrange offerings, traditional offerings and ritual offerings like water, flowers, lights, incense, and so on. There are many different kinds of offerings, but whatever we put on the altar or on the table, nice, clean, and beautiful, this is just a support or an entry door to an immense offering that fills the entire space, which is something we do with our mind. Physically, we have some props, and using these props, we work with our mind and we fill the space with offerings. And as it says, exterior, interior, and secret offerings, and even ultimate offerings. So it means external things like water, light, flowers, So we fill the space with these external offerings. And then there are the inner offerings or interior offerings, which is the perceptions we have of whatever sound, shapes, forms, tastes, and so on, touch sensation, sight sensation, yeah, through the ears, the sound sensations, all that. So this is the inner offering, and then the secret offering is the coming together of the wisdom and the skillful means. Sometimes we call it men and rakta, that's esoteric words, but it's the coming together of the two energies, male and female energies, the wisdom and the compassion. And there is this ultimate immaculate space treasure, which is filling the space with all sorts of offerings. And it starts with Ram, Yam, Kam. These are seed syllables. Each of these syllables give birth or provokes the one element. With Ram or Ram, the element fire burns everything. So in our perception of offerings, which starts from what we have put on the altar as an offering to Amitabha and all the Buddhas, this is completely burned by the energy of the fire. And burning here is the most powerful purification, purification through fire, the most powerful purification process. So Ram is purification process through fire. And then Yam is the wind. So after everything is burned, there are some remains, ashes, whatever, and this is flushed, this is wiped or carried away by enormous wind energy, flow of wind and air. And then Kam is the water, a seed syllable for water, so it's a flushing of whatever traces that may remain, traces of impurities, so that we have very, very pure offerings. And what is the impurity we are purifying and getting rid of? It's the dualistic mind, the mind that says me, and this is dualistic because there's me and there's others, and my body, this is dualistic, or my thing, my car, this is dual. The moment there is mine, then there is others, and my family, my friends, my whatever. So this is completely spoiling and making all our offerings dirty. So we remove that through this process of Ram, Yam, Kam, of great energetic elements, processes, and then attachment, as it says, attachment to reality and concepts are purified by emptiness. So this is our own mental contemplation. We purify everything, our concepts, and grasping to reality. The attachment to reality means the dualistic. When we grasp phenomena, experience, we grasp them and they become dualistic. So all this is purified through our contemplation of emptiness. And from that contemplation, from the ultimate sphere of emptiness and the dynamism, the energy of the mind, which is still there, then there are clouds of these external, inner, and secret offerings. Immaculate space treasure. Space treasure means as a treasure that fills the space.
Antara chibo pyo di la ni doa ngusu shambe chiba se de ngone tangne diksha chederwa ta yiji trbe chiba sing de tingin zingirwa de yiki trbe chiba de tingin zin shine de so yakbo yona mato kale ka porwa ine ngonzo samlo to porwa yiji trbe chiba de ngusu shambe chiba da kaya mara yiji trbe chiba de perna zambuling Nögi jikten zambuling tamje tene samlata. Nögi jikten zambuling dila chugi semjen kandeshi yore. Tizo tamje samlata. Tene semjen pena midang hadabu yina, tene penjur mangbo yorwa, diso samlata. Teyang daktu sungwa, dakpo yungi, daktu mazungwa, ridang, sodang, tene katayore. Tizo sama semgi sone, tene zambuling sama, tene ya chebe yula pigo go dirba samla tengo ba pena nganzo Paris ki dongsi chimbo nang rani yewa ina Paris ki dongsi nang la kangba dang mota dang tene pu dang bomo dang juno longje khatse di yiji tune tene cheba yala kunji sumna cheba pigo yarwa sangje ki sungdo sonam saile lela bale sungo yarwa jesu yalangji yiji tune tene 가연 제트고래 서저 데려와 인지 민지 선음 사이라 집어표라 주자라 망부지 거고 말아 셈르와 어데네 제네 삼노단다 집어표야 다틱티르도
So for now we are just preparing. We are filling the space with offering, but we are not yet performing the actual gesture of offering to the Buddha. But we set the offering, the stage of offering, which is a space, the entire space filled with all kinds of offerings which are immaculate, which are purified from, as it says here, attachment to reality or and grasping in concepts. So we abide in this state of emptiness where yet the energy of the mind manifests in the form of a space filled with the offerings. And this is a general process we always resort to in our esoteric practices. Whenever we talk of offerings, there is something material that we put on the altar. Some offering is there, and this is what we call the actual material physical offering. And we use this as a basis. It's the support or the prop, as I said. I don't know if it's a helpful term. You will tell me, please, at the end. So that we can have the confidence that we have offerings to provide, but then we can, with our own mind and imagination, we can expand and expand it limitlessly, what we call the space treasure, so that it fills the space. And when we do that, we can use also with the power of our imagination and mental capacity, we can think of much more than what we have provided, that we beautify and multiply, but we can think of the entire world, the universe. The universe is made, according to our traditional Buddhist Tibetan approach to offering into the world. We distinguish the material world, which is made of the minerals and the vegetables, which is called the container. And within this container, there are sentient beings who have a mind, a samsaric mind that goes from life to life. So these are called the contained, what is in the container. And all this world, the physical world, and that's the entire cosmos, and all the sentient beings in this world, there we can also include them in our practice, and in particular include what they create that is valuable, that human beings create a lot of value. And gods, the devas in the samsara, they also have very beautiful possessions, and all these very valuable, precious, magnificent things that are available in the world. With our mind, we also include them in our offering. So we can include in an offering things that have an owner. Someone owns them, like the beautiful things that the gods have, or I don't know, in the world, the kings or the queens. I think that's a little bit a subject, the royalty or whoever, the most beautiful manifestation, with our mind, we are very happy this is there and because it's beautiful, and then we offer it. We can offer it, we include it. And we also include common, I don't know how you call that, but common properties that are owned collectively or that have no owner, like mountains, landscapes, rivers, oceans, stars, and so on. Cannot be claimed by any god or human beings, but we include everything, whether it has an owner, we still offer it, and it has no owner, we offer it. And we can make this very practical by thinking of the place we are in, like if we are in a big city, London or Paris, and around us there are so many things. There are buildings and there are people, and in the streets and in the next building many people, many beautiful furnitures, cars, wealth, buildings, people, children, adults, all of this, all of what of that is available in the world is we include it in our offering. So this is called the offering that we imagine, we sort of emanate. It says emanate because we fill the space with these offerings. And here the point is that we don't need, as a practitioner, in order to accumulate merit and to really go through this very important practice of offering, which we have a word here at the fourth page, the last line. You have Sarva Puja Alalahu. Here we have the word puja, which means offering, and it's the Sanskrit word, which for sure you know, the word puja or puja. Tibetans pronounce it puja. So offering is very important. Puja is very important. It's like sometimes the meat of the practice, but you don't need to have, carry lots of material offerings to be able to perform the puja, because this is spiritual practice, and with our mind we can take all the beauties of the world and offer them. So that's the key thing. Just rejoice and appreciate the beautiful things available in the world and offer them.
Teneda Nyamlendis Sama Semgi Tengi Elaborava. Sanjegi Shudi Karasana Semla Lehajan Jurata and the Shu 6 euro. Tenepena Pechanala Sanjegi Shunam Tamji Cheni Dumbetsela Laptone Chirdang Judang Temdrichila Yungore Tamche Inayang Rangi Sem di Sochorabas Sem Gitene Tene Danda Chinanso Chobadis Samo Tane Tene Semgia Pune Te Semgi Chinama Shed Sem till have the same control Sadirita Semde.
So really, it's actually very simple to perform pujas in the Buddhist tradition in this context, because it's a spiritual practice. It's the spirit, it's the mind. So with our mind, whatever our mind thinks and whatever intent we have within our mind, intent and exertion of the mind is the practice. That's the Dharma. The Dharma is what the mind does. So in terms of offering, we talk of external and inner offerings and so on. And also generally speaking, we talk about the cause and the material and the conditions, and then the coincidence and the co-emergent, the co-production and all that. But we can make it simple. It's all about the mind. So mind is the key. Mind is the more important than anything, the cause, the conditions, and the co-production. The mind is the performer. The mind is the creator of our offering. And when we come to the actual puja, where we offer, so the mind should be in a double movement. of sending up the offering, the beauties of the world, the beauties of our life, the beauty of whatever we own and what is owned and what is not owned. So it's a ascendant movement, and there will be the return descendant movement, bringing back down the blessing that helps us transform our mind. So that's a general explanation about what offering is about and how to do it. So let's do it together from Ramyam. Second line.
다 정말 전에다 냠는 뭐마 딜립게요. 냠는 뭐마 딜라 간스치고레 세디 닥든 담실 harchepas. 테네 냠는 징이 마랑 랑이 테네 제네실라 바 저고르바. 테네 랑기 자글라마지 선제요바 메긴나 바지 둥게나걸 셀타고르바. 닥든 제네 냠는 제고도와 다 딜랍디 Pechananga si kurdi nyamni ne trabatal sedi teneda rani yidam chene segi cherim gom goyare tene kurdi nyamni ne trabatal sedi semnala korware nyangele debare tene diso kayang samlo matane trabatamji talne stral sedi tene tongmani ngala sigo tongmani ngala rangi kaya 인생의 남도 매번 tongmani ngala tongba tong장에 많이 봐 마각봐 랑당 tene natural tene 랑싱의 외사와 닝지디 tene 고겨라 템바디 고겨다 tongba 레데 tene 간석이 심계랑시 외사와 전바디 고고요 대신님부대 테네 성주 일만 배만다베테 대다부 소소랑릭비 이시디기 테네 제네세고 탈레메 테네 소고그라바 테네 한서 얘기를 테네 랑기랑릭비 이시기를 테네 제네세 테라 시당망부두데 강달 라니 제네세기 Genesis musumdo hin samne dakche Genesis komeateres.
And so now everything is set for the core practice where enlightenment is there and we manifest as enlightenment. So that is called the generation. It's written in italic, page 4, third line, in the middle of the third line. Generation of the Dhammic deities, yourself, and those before you. So it's oneself. We are going to, here deities means divine in the sense of enlightened ones. So we manifest as enlightened, and in front of oneself, we manifest, we visualize enlightenment. So we generate and we cultivate this presence of enlightenment. And as it says, it starts with Shri, and Shri, because we're going to go through a process of transformation. It's a self-transformation and transformation of our concept of what is in front of ourselves or other than oneself. So here is called oneself transformation, and in front of oneself transformation. Oneself is going to manifest as Chenrezi, Avalokiteshvara, and in front of oneself, Amitabha, infinite light. So how we do that is we start from Shri, the equality of samsara and nirvana devoid of concept since beginningless time. Means that we go back to our own primordial awareness, where there is, since beginningless time, there is no concept. It's a state of non-duality, so there is the equality of samsara and nirvana. And when it says devoid of concept, it means especially no apprehension of the world in a dualistic way. So you may call it emptiness. When there is no grasping, no fabrication, it's emptiness. But this sort of primordial state of emptiness is not a blank state, a blackout. We're not going to faint. There is still the natural mind that is there, unobstructed natural radiance. It means there is a clarity, there is knowing that is there, an awareness that is there, unobstructed. It's not stopped. It's never stopped. It's always ongoing, unobstructed. And this state of primordial consciousness, primordial awareness, radiating clarity, a clear clarity state of the mind, this now will take a form, and it will take the form of Chenrezig. So we generate this manifestation of enlightenment as Avalokiteshvara. Chenrezig is the Tibetan and Avalokiteshvara is the Sanskrit. We consider we are Chenrezig, I am Avalokiteshvara, but this I am Avalokiteshvara is the all-pervading compassion that comes from a state of non-duality and a clarity state, clarity primordial state, now is, for this practice, taking the form of the all-pervading compassion, which is Avalokiteshvara. And so it continues saying, on the lotus and moon disc, the letter Shri immediately transforms itself into myself. If we write it like that, it sounds a little bit dualistic, but into the great compassionate one, noble Chenrezig. And as we go through this process from non-duality to great compassion, the embodiment of great compassion is Chenrezig. He's not the compassionate one, he is the great compassion. And we have to have this conviction, I am great compassion, because I come from this all-pervading, undifferentiated great union when there is no duality. I am really actually Chenrezig.
Mone chena manzo gis manzo tikpa dan driba tamje da charde manzo suji phungbu di tene sangje ge kula jirno go yarwa te injang tene rani Chenrezig daga zam Chenrezig mayimba ji Chenrezig samlo tang marwa Chenrezig ngoma yimba la yimba sheba tere do Dene di da maung bala sangje di longju zoku samuwa kaya direndo. Tinsan dak jirims, dene de tabu, dene rangi semgi, tanganzu dirida. Lam la sumiyor, meba ki lam, dene meba chebe lam, dene da lam dangmo meba tsamum chayagi lam chi tene lam nipa di namba chebe lam chi sumba di ngusum chi lam chi tanda nganzo meba tsamari mato namba tsamaya marido meba tsam chi rangi supu di Chenrezig chorsong Chenrezig yin samba di meba tsam chiri Tinete yarje shimbo namba zamsi. Tine yarje shimbo musum dana jetu yaro. Tanda meba gilamre, meba chebe lams. Tine meba zamchene rani dakchi chene singabo sertap. Tapichala shi pam a hunkar yuna mene gangtar. Tine simdi rani chene sing chashiba. Kundo karbo. Tiso samlotana chene musum de samen redo.
This sense and the state of mind that that takes the form of Chenrezig is without any doubt I am Chenrezig, because I start my visualization from the state of contemplation of emptiness, non-duality, which is the purity state of the mind, purity state of phenomena. There's no more duality, I and phenomena, subject and object, good and bad. So it's in this purity state, there is only Chenrezig, there is only great compassion. So it's not like, oh, I have to tell myself I am Chenrezig and I have to convince myself that I am actually Chenrezig, I'm really Chenrezig. It's naturally there, because I contemplate, I rest in this primordial awareness. I go back to this primordial state of an obstructed natural radiant state of the mind. So this is all pervading compassion, and this is Chenrezig. So this makes it obvious I am Chenrezig, and because when there is no negativity and no obscuration, what is left is the enlightenment state, enlightenment body. So my body is the body of Avalokiteshvara. And then we can really read the details of the text, second line, page 4a, but we can also just rest and think of Chenrezig. And so I am white in color, and I have 4 arms, and so on, and just contemplate and visualize this form, which is described page 4a, second line and third line. And of course, for now, we are not that advanced that we can really experience directly that we are the universal compassion. But we can imagine, we can put ourselves in a state where we are in that state of understanding, that's contemplation. So we could say it's just a mental representation. We mentally go into that state of contemplating that there is non-duality, and this non-duality is my nature of Chenrezig, of great compassion. And as we progress, which means when we really reach a very advanced levels of mind development and realization, we will be able to manifest, to experience that we are Chenrezig. And then as we really progress and have actual realization, direct realization, then we are actually visibly, obviously Chenrezig. We can manifest very clearly Chenrezig directly and without having to visualize anything. For now, it's a visualization, but it's a visualization that goes through that process of contemplation of the primordial purity state of our mind and resting in that primordial purity state of the mind, which is radiant, great compassion, all-pervading compassion, as it says.
Dadi nyamlen da umma da mansa Amitabha practice chela da tangbo dachi Chenrezig seltaba de nyambo dengin da tangbo.
So let's do the recitation together. We do this first part, which is the generation. It's called like that technically, generation of oneself as Chenrezig. So it starts at the end of page 4. and we'll stop before Amitabha in front of oneself. So last line in Tibetan.
Chaje chaje longje anzo guje chaje damo thalmo jarve na yeje norvo gude kunjona ome chaje shede Nalaya Raja Madhu Janzandar Sarve Nuyura Namke Kalondo Chedrenda Me Kachava Gangwe Onda Desimto Tuji Shimo Papa Chenesi Kudukazari Omisa Sarve Nuyu Namke Kalondo Seda Nala Ransima Dujam Pado Dila Dinda Ome Jane Shedre Begaradin Nala Eranshe Madu Jazenda Andi Bardu Dakchi De Sarva Dakchi Chenesi Nala Rashin Madu Jasuntar Sigdoa Nala Rangshin Meba said Banan Jasuntabu Melonangi Sungyen Tabu Chunangi Tawa Tabu Tende Chik Tene Nala Rangshin Matrupa Jasun Tabu Uchida Rani Chenesi Tene Tuya Meba Tene Rangshin Matrupa Insa Jasun Tabu Chi Yune Yovala Tuya Meba Chi Banangi Jasun Tabu Te Bardu Dakchir Da Dunji Savi Dun Namke Kalundu Rangi Tende Chenesi Dakchir Tamne Rangi Dunginangaya Tosala Namke Kayundu Childrendume Kachokangwi Menda Pemakabo Tama Bumdang Damachimbo Chitendu Davi Jingur Nyagangwe Tendu Tene Zawelama Kombo Yubame Sidi Ngode Rangi Zawelama Zekor Namba de Sanje Yubame Tene Kundo Marsa Pemarage Shalchi Chani Tesundo Shami Chito Chugu Namsum Chani Nyamsha Bedrug Lumzimbatini Ula Sotor Shabla Holo Senzambosum Beji Dene Chiseta Rangi Dungenanga Sanje Namba Obame Moza Lama Dene Chasang Rangi Samutan Sardi Zoe Tengo Chosam Tamchidu Sedetabu Tunji Sanje Obamegi Teng Wok Chok Sam Tam Jedu Sanjay Janju Semba Papingidun Lama Yedam Kandu Chujung Tenet Paktu Meba Namkala Tingi Pumbo Nangsing Tenejene Shugu Sambuda Zoine Sum Dorji Sumjene Oma Hunda Ri Semba Wezerba Me Shojo Shindu Tre Sedi Tene Dunchigi Zo Sanjay Weba Medang Sene Sanjay Tamjigi Jiwur Jimbar Ningane Tene Kusung Tune Wezertene Oma Honda Ri Sembale Wezerba Me Choju Shindu Tre Sedi Tene Wezertre Tene Ishi Sembe Sonum Chenam Dur Sedi Dagi Ganzo Samlo Tangadi Damzi Semba Laporima Tene da Wezertrone Ishigi Musumdu Chen Zhangju de la Tene Ishi Semba Une Sterida or the Lechi Samlatam Cherim La Damzi Semba the Ishi Semba so the Lechi.
That's it. No, so what we have just read and contemplated is visualizing, generating oneself as Avalokiteshvara, and So I don't know. Dupena ngonso di dakidi ngonso indicate logore kamdiri. Yes, so let's read what we have just recited in Tibetan. End of page 4. Shri, the equality of samsara and nirvana, devoid of concepts since beginningless time, unobstructed natural radiance, all-pervading compassion, undifferentiated great union. On the lotus and moon cushion, the letter Shri immediately transforms into myself, the great compassionate one, noble Chenrezig. His body is glowing white like a resplendent conch shell. He has one face, 4 arms, and is clothed with the attributes of the Sambhogakaya. In his first 2 joined hands, he holds a wish-fulfilling jewel, which bestows all needs and desires. The other 2 hold a crystal mala and a white lotus. His appearance is without substance, like a rainbow. So in Tibetan it says, Nanarang Shima Dukja Tsintar. And here we can stop for now, because this is all about self-generation and self-visualization as Avalokiteshvara. And as it says, his appearance is without substance like a rainbow. So we visualize ourselves white in color with 4 arms and so on. And we really establish this visualization, but at the same time, we should not make it solid. It says, his appearance is without substance like a rainbow, which means it is appearing, there is an appearance, yet at the same time as it appears, it's not as it appears to be existing. It's like a rainbow, which means there is nothing. There's just a vision, but there's nothing solid, nothing existing. Another example is the reflection in a mirror. When we see our reflection or anything reflected in a mirror, there is actually nothing in the mirror. If there's a landscape or a person reflected, there's nothing. There is just a reflection. It's an appearance. It's a form. There is something that is manifest, but which doesn't exist, which is not there. Another example is the reflection of the moon on the water. When the water, like a lake, is very quiet, you can see the full moon very clearly, but there's nothing in the lake. There is no moon, but there is clearly the reflection, very brilliant, very bright, but it's not there. So in the same way, we manifest, the primordial purity state of the mind takes the form of Avalokiteshvara, very clear, very brilliant, very detailed, but this is an appearance that has no substance. The only substance is the primordial purity. It's like a rainbow, there's nothing to grasp. So that's for generating oneself. And then the next part for a while is about the space in front of oneself. So in the space in front of oneself, I'm not reading it in English yet because we have not done it in Tibetan, but it describes, or maybe I'll do it. In the realm of the space, visualize before you, actually it's never you, it's always oneself. The realm of space visualized before oneself is filled with clouds of various offerings, permeating space. In the middle is a white lotus with 100,000 opened petals. On it is a full moon disk upon which reside the root guru, one with the protector Amitabha. That means that this is our root guru, the actual root guru that we have, who introduced us to enlightenment, but the form is the form of the Buddha Amitabha, infinite light. So, but this is our guru in this form. So the form is, as it says in the 3rd line, luminous red with a ruby-colored aura, 1 face, 2 arms, and 2 legs in the Vajra posture. His body is beautiful, clothed with 3 robes of the Dharma, monastic robes. his two hands, and so on. Placed over the other, hold a lapis lazuli bowl. He has a crown protuberance, and on the sole of each foot a diamond wheel. He is ornamented with the 32 excellent major signs and the 80 minor marks. So that's for Amitabha in front of oneself. And then not only that, but Amitabha is surrounded. Oh, I lost the file. Amitabha is surrounded everywhere above and below him, and in all the cardinal and intermediate direction, east, west, north, and northwest, northeast, and so on. Everywhere filled with visualized Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, the noble Sangha, Guru, Yidam, Dakinis, and Dharma protectors, an immeasurable entourage, like clouds filling the sky. The entire space is filled with enlightened ones. But then, and that's the next stage, each of them, and in particular the main enlightened one, which is Amitabha, the root guru, has in the three places, that means the forehead, the throat, and in the middle of the chest at the heart level. They are in the nature of the three Vajra, which means enlightened body, enlightened speech, and enlightened mind. So these three places are marked with Ah, Hung, and also Shri. And from these three places and these letters radiate countless rays of light to the realms of the 10 directions. And this light go and invite not only what we have visualized, but the actual presence of the wisdom, primordial wisdom, all pervading, and invite it to come to this space which we have built as filled with enlightened beings.
So
let's recite this together in Tibetan from the front one, the front visualization. So it starts page 5, first line, second verse. Salve Dunyu.
Salve Dunyu namke kalondo chedendo me kacha gawewe pemae garbo dama bundalwe tendo nawe jinkor nyagante sawe lama gombo yopame Kondo marzara bemara gedam Shaje janye jamye chitungyo Chego namzo gula de barlo Chanye nyamja mendura lungzenzen Ula tudora jabla goloza Tsenza sonye peje aje chote Tove tewo chotsama damjendo Sanje jansen pabe ngendunda Lama yeda khando jejonzo Tsokora bame kala tendaraza Tove nezo doje zonje Oma onda shiye zembale Ezere bame chodo jendo Eje zembe zono injikela.
Anzolot sasundapana.
Yine da tene samlo samsardi tene chenden segidoa tene nuchu dechen pema kilone sorto ishi gombo yebame deshi jawa sedanja demi tungshuda bochen matu nyurani shi soro ma de chenden da chenden danda ngi lapsa songa jawa ze chone tene ishi samatam ji chenda was de tsigdir da tsigdi tyongo yoro tenda de lapsa da.
So we're not going to recite together because we read it together. This visualization with the light that goes in all directions. Now to invite the actual wisdom entities. So this is what the 4 next verses say. They say, from the expanse of the lotus pure land of great bliss in the west, there's protector Amitabha of discriminating wisdom, but also all the Buddhas and their offsprings, all of them with intensely fervent faith and aspiration. I invite you, come quickly without delay. So this is what we have mentioned just before when we said there is light that radiates from the 3 places, the Om, the A, and the Hung. And you can visualize also at the level of the heart, the Shi. And from this light goes and invites. So now we are going to do that, the actual invitation, the words we say when we invite. So page 6, all together in Tibetan.
Deshenjawa sedajaba Namay deme dojo Drabe Matoy nyorowa Nidoje Matoy nyorowa Nido Shekso sol oma mindewa Rinada samaya zada Adijaya Onda drin dila shagoda tene yang diwa dilinda bute se tene dewa chengmelam jitik tengis.
Okay, now that we have performed a great length of the actual ritual with the visualization, all the preparation and the visualization, we can leave it at that for today because we are approaching the end of this session. We have about 15-20 minutes. I would like to open the floor and allow you to ask any question that you would like. We'll try to answer. And also as a conclusion, that we make a short prayer to be reborn in the Wachen. So we will continue for tomorrow. And now the floor is open. So please, because we are not so many, we are just 25 people, I think, or about 25 people. So you just turn on your microphone, your camera, and ask, and you'll be answered hopefully. Tessa, are you lifting your hand? Yes, Tessa, yes. Unmute your microphone.
Thank you, Annie Chimpa, for your translation. I'm just, I wasn't even going to mention it, but I will, as you've directed your questioning at me. Common property, that expression you used when you were talking about doing the offerings, visualizations, and you were talking about common property can be offered, like mountains, things like that. But does that mean that, in what context did you use the word common? Does that mean that something that belongs to somebody else can't be offered, or what? I don't quite get that.
Okay. Sorry, maybe also my English is sometimes a little bit tricky, but I'll ask anyway. Yeah, for sure. I was looking for a legal term in French, which has a meaning in terms of property in the French law, but I'm not sure. I'm going to check the translation. But anyway, this question of do we offer things that we don't own is a very good question. Drubpon semgi chubik la kashi daktu zoom dan tene kashi daktu zoom me pa yang pu gore kandri nganso dakpo men na yang e pul dona digere be de waji je
Oh, digere be dio ya hodo Bala Dr. Sungwe Chebadi, Sosugi, Junior Longche, Pangba Mota, Kimin Pugu Chogade, Dr. Sungra. Tene Dagi Lidon Longche Tamja Masika. Tene Shen, Tene Kadang Nembe Doa Maliba Seinoa. Tene Doari Duki Semjen, Bena Lada, Mida. Tene Dr. Mazonga Labdi, Ri, Gangri, Pak, So, River, Tene Semjen Manguera. Tisu Semgitune, Da Dr. Sunga da Mazonga Niga, Rangi Semgi Logi Trune, Te Conjusumna Pigu, Sadirande, da Semgi, the Mazam Dira Semgi Chetakaba.
The mission that Puina and the
Shenda Kamba in a digger, Jesu Yeranjin, Pina digger, in Lapsoma, Ediski Tongjer Sama, Rangi, Semgi Trune, Pina digger, Siente.
Okay.
In a Dr. Sunga, the Madua said, Dr. Sunga Rangirama. Shen Dr. Sunga Paris Tongjer, Dr. Mazuma de Tene Rangi Maimba, Chalamanguya, natural. Soda, Rida, this is in the.
So, yeah, we offer whatever we have that we are the owner of, or we have some kinds of ownership. So our own body, our own possessions, our house, our car, our furnitures, jewels, jewelry, and art, and whatever we have, including our children, our parents, our spouse, everything we have some sort of, this is mine. This we offer. And first off, Drubpon said, very good question. And so we offer what we have, and then next is we offer what we don't have. So what others, other people or human beings or divine beings own, we mentally rejoice.
Paris Lapsoma.
We first off, we rejoice, oh, they own this, you know, the queen or the king has a beautiful castle. I'm happy, this is beautiful, how happy they are. I offer it mentally, because it's through rejoicing that this exists. So it creates a connection with this possession, and I offer it. I take mentally. And then there are, so this is what Drubpon said when he said, you know, you are in a town and you're in London, maybe he said Paris, but we are, okay, you're in London, let's imagine, and around you, there are many buildings you don't own, many people you have no connection whatsoever, furnitures, arts, jewelry, whatever. Mentally, we rejoice, oh, there are so many beauties in the world, in this place around us, in London itself, and then we can go to the Diva's realm and everything through our rejoicing and appreciation, and then we offer it. So these things have an owner. And then there are the things which I don't know how I call them, but you note it down. Thank you for that. And I just checked. This is what we call the commons. Commons, it's a legal term which refers sometimes to forests, lakes, mountains. There is a sort of owner, but it's not private individual, it's collective ownership. And this also we offer. So in Tibet, they say it has no honor, the mountains, the lakes, the rivers, and we offer them. So we just offer everything through mentally, yeah, and including things we don't own, indeed. Thank you.
You.
Any other questions? So it can be related to what has been said this afternoon or this morning, or something related to whatever in your life, spiritual life. Yes, Michael, you're welcome since nobody else is daring.
I would like to know when should we fold hands, and when should we leave them, let them rest on the knees?
Okay.
Just that.
Okay, throughout the ritual?
Not just the ritual, but like in general. I don't really know when I should fold hands and then when I should just let them be.
Yeah, thank you very much for asking.
Drubpon
shani chogiri di selpo hako gimindu segidu.
어디 랍고 상 랍고 게 랍고 잡도 갑라 된데제 심제 갑라 된 소듭 된들레나 된데제 디메 랍고 되네 토자 바상이 디부 가버도 디스 토자 바상이 양인 거로 인지 잡도 원리 잡도 갑라 된데제 소듭
그래서 tiene druptapti ki masse drupna chedang onzo de pena bebi lusel hakala intiminchik la bajar gori ki chuba karina tiene gakala chogi majena chogi je kan di kandere
말이다 먼저 고마데슬라 그런 제거지 제된 always 된데스라 전 같이 딱 제기도 어디 갈래 가버려 봐 이 말에 그 제거는 제지 먹으려고 마시나 약수요래 라고 먹으라 샤나 셈발을 되기로 봐 이 라면 손뎁된들라 잡두된들 제거 신 제거 말이지
Alors, so Drupal tomorrow will provide for this ritual the details when we do what with our hands, when we play the bear, when we play the damaru, when we fold hands, and also. But generally speaking, like when we are in a religious setting, Buddhist setting, there are times when we must fold hands because it's really meaningful. It's exactly what is appropriate, is when we take refuge and when we pray. Pray in English refers to different types of things, including aspiration prayer. And this is not the prayer we're talking here about. We're talking about praying, requesting something to the Buddha, to the Guru. In the Guru Yoga, when we pray to the Guru, we really have a specific address in our prayer. So it's not just a wish, it's a request. So for this requesting prayers or supplication, when we supplicate, we fold hands. When we take refuge, we fold hands. Any other time, in general, speaking in general, there's no need to fold hands. And if people, they think, oh, actually, so it's better to rest. Well, if you want to join hands, why not? But it's better to just rest, except when you take refuge and when you supplicate, when we supplicate. And then tomorrow we'll go into the details for this ritual.
Natasha,
you have a question.
Yes, thank you so much, Drubpon. I love the way you're teaching these days, explaining for people like me who don't know anything. And I liked also the way you're explaining about the different aspects that these deities are different aspects of the same thing. Could you explain in this context a little bit more about Vajradhara? I never have a sort of feeling of Vajradhara, what it represents and how, don't know, could you say a bit more about Vajradhara?
Okay, thank you, Natasha. Dampu morangi kirang la tujishi shugidu kansana den sang kirangi chu serpo du sama serpo haku gidu segidu sangi gidenda nan sama serpo haku gidu jig badu ha serpo haku mason segidu den sang kirangi chu pe serpo du segidu tujina tene serpo yin sang morang jigwa chig yores doji chang carrere di candes di serpo hakomason di mixel sangue dans daji chang di candere di serpo yang jiwa serpo jitu mason.
Okay, na jirtang manzo sanje segarwa Buddha tene sanga gi lugla Buddha di namba dorji chang jirware chikpare. Okay. 먼저 수트라 갑라 부다 거랑 보면와 상하기 냠린 제가 갑라 부다디 then Dorji Changina Bajura. Buddha Shakta Munigi, Sanga Gichunodi, Supudi, Sambo Dorji Changpa Jurne, Sambo Kala Jurne, Tene Chunanga. Or did the Sanga Dorji. That Dorji is the Dorji Diramba. Dorji. Tene Dorji than Tribudi, Chang City, Tene Dorji Tribute, Namdova, the Dorji Chang Dira. Tene Dilata, then the Chimboyaro. Dila Tene, then Dila, then the Korde Tamjidina Mayaro. Korwada, Yangeli Deba, Sama de Tabda, Sheriff Sama, the Dipets are Chimbuti. Then this Hunding in the Kares, Dorji Chang City, Tene. Sangje Tamji Chik to do big Rangsuri. Sangje Tamji Chik to do the Dorji Chang, Sajik, then the Chariam or Derida. The Injuda, Sangje Tamji Chik to do Shajo, then the land Dorji Changs, Injuda, Buddha Sena, Dorji Changs and a Chikparava, Sangakala, Dorji Chang Nabere, Tene Sutra Kala, Sanje, the Bashugarava, Teneda. Rangi Lama de Sanjungu Re City, Tenetsavalama, Dorji Changi Namba, Gomgo, Derot. Dorjis mean sent to den and Dorji Terore. Dorji Chala Namdo, and Dorji Dila Jawa Rigna, Tene Ya Yangale Deba, Mala, Tene Korwa, Sene, Tene Direva, Korwa, the Yangale Deba Nika, Dene. Chiktu, da Kordini Sanje se Kame Gandarda Chugu Dharma Kaya se Chirma. Then Chugu Dorji Chanchen Sigdwa. Then the change. That the shit Lelabuti Mariba Tachimburedo.
Oh, this is a very vast subject and very profound. So generally speaking, when we say Vajra, Dara, Vajra is the Vajra, so it's represented as the implement, the Vajra, and Dara means holder. So it's the holder of the Vajra. That's a sort of generic term that refers to enlightenment. And we use it in the Vajrayana, the Vajrayana, the vehicle of the Vajra, when we refer to the Buddha, because the Buddha Shakyamuni, the historical Buddha, so he was a human being and he was teaching, he's our teacher. But when it is said, when he taught the Vajrayana, he didn't teach as a human monk, he taught as a Vajra holder. Here, maybe I add what His Holiness would say. Vajra stands for the ultimate indestructible realization. But Drubpon was showing the implement, but the implement stands for that enlightenment. So in the Vajrayana, we consider Buddha Shakyamuni in the form of Vajradhara. So it means the Buddha. It means the enlightened one. And then the Vajra itself, Drubpon was explaining, Vajra has many, so rich and so vast. Like the shape itself, it has five branched shape with an up and down. So this represents everything, all the samsara, all the nirvana, the 5 families and the 5 main poisons, and everything is there. Everything is within the Vajra. So holder of the Vajra, is enlightenment, Drubpon said. And once we have found an enlightened master, so enlightened master stands for enlightenment. So therefore, we call the Buddha, the Guru, Vajradhara. The Guru is our Vajradhara, and we visualize the Guru as Vajradhara. So there would be many things to say. Also, the Vajradhara, the holding of the Vajra, because the Vajradhara holds belts and Vajra and holds them this way. It also stands for the coming together and the unifying of all the aspects of enlightenment. So it's the universal enlightenment. It's the Buddha. All the Buddhas come in the form of Vajradhara. It unites all the phases and forms of enlightenment. And sometimes, therefore, we say it's also Dhammakaya. We say Dhammakaya Vajradhara. So it's a vast subject also because depending on the context, we may use this term Vajradhara to express different things, but the idea is holder of the Vajra, the Buddha, enlightenment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nada.
Tene shulu chungni ala dewa chen la kia ga melam jab kore sunga doha dagi ju shinang na ju chik di melam nin len sum tsen len sum se doha di da duba di ema ho nga sar sang jere di tsar sum dengu budu.
And now we cannot leave before we recite and we pray to be reborn in Dewachen, as we said this morning. That's one of the key conditions to reach to this blissful field, is to pray formally and really aspire, develop this aspiration. So we have it in the Amitabha text, page 12a, second line. So we're going to do that. You're invited to do that with us.
Inji Tibetan sarchik inji kela inda.
Okay, we'll do it twice, once in Tibetan and once in English language.
Two Tibetan.
Oh, two Tibetan and then one in English. Once in English. Wonderful. The wonderful Buddha, infinite light, Amitabha. To his right, the Lord, great compassion, Chenrezig. To his left, the Bodhisattva, great power, Vajrapani, are surrounded by countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. A marvelous and immeasurable happiness prevails in this pure land called the Blissful One, Dewachen. As soon as we come to leave this life, without taking rebirth anywhere else, may we be reborn there and gaze upon the face of infinite light. The aspiration we have thus expressed, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. Oh, it's missing, but please fulfill, bless us so that the aspiration is fulfilled.
Okay, deneda dagi kogi zawela ma shapten de la bodene je ko resona ko duwati.
Now we will do a prayer for the long life of the root guru, and also it's appropriate as we request and pray for the root guru to live long, to fold hands, also because we pronounce the proper name of the guru.
Omso de je bonge je me doro je de ninje de be ma ya ka be chara wa jo ro ba je xiao song da de xian de le do je bonge Jime doro jinde inje de pe ma ga chara wang jo do ba je shab song da de chen de le de je bo jime doro jinde inje de Be my God, and I want you to change the song that send Lundozo, the shed and bed and bachoke, so near Ruda, Tintingi, she do Sashin, Yishin number. Yambe Jagam Damje, Gonjo, Dom some Nime, Vedant. Tesam gumbe dizan zimbe jen den zembe monzo che yambe jagam damje gonjo je yadan go de chelo nam pendan deve rinje je chokor sarba sarbe ban yambe jagam damje gonjo je rakar dunje rube runo je cheve dabe jide sundo chabdan duve gumbo Ringlo se basam doje joje, temba jide kamso jema, temba nyewe shendo sarwanda, tenzin bulo darshin je, temba yere nebe drashi. La so tene diring, maran so chuze kashi ring la, tene chugi toling jere, dila sonam pakdo meba yore, Ten charanso semnala. Tiring yimachik lehaya ku jeba in samne kago gore ngara ine pe kago tu. Tene sangma sani shoge je yong chuzi chubala. Tene sangma simja nango sene. Tiring nilam nangla sangje yoba me. Tene jaga tobiyage malam jagyo silamso sangmala.
So these were dedications and prayers for the fruition of the Dharma and the spreading and the fructification of the Dharma. And with that, we finish these several hours of teaching today, about 4 hours of teachings and contemplating the Dharma. And that's wonderful. That's a very meaningful time we have spent together. And please appreciate this time you have dedicated. This is not wasted. You could have done very much less meaningful activities or pointless activities, and you have really dedicated these several hours to something very meaningful and very positive. So it's a lot of merit. So please rejoice and appreciate. And that's all for today. So we'll meet tomorrow. And meanwhile, there will be the night, and you'll have a dream state. And make sure you keep Amitabha in your mind, and perhaps dream of infinite light during the night. You'll tell me tomorrow. And see you tomorrow morning. We'll meet again. Have a good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bonne nuit.
Good night.
See you tomorrow. Thank you. Good night. Good night. Thank you. Maxi, good night.